If you told me a few years ago about Escape from Tarkov, I probably would look at you and laugh and wonder who would find that type of game enjoyable. But fast forward a few years, here we are at the closing stages of 2025, where there's countless extraction shooters coming to market trying to compete with Escape from Tarkov. And it's no competition and it's no debate that Escape from Tarkov really set the ground rules for what makes an extraction shooter. Militaristic, a lot of hardcore realism, permadeath influences, and just the really hard gameplay loop and learning curve. All of these things EFT perfected in a sense. And every game that has come out since Escape from Tarkov really found a mainstream audience either conforms to these ideals or gets labeled as a shameless clone and a ripoff. In this video, we're going to be discussing one of the closest Escape from Tarkov competitors, whether you like it or not, Arena Breakout Infinite, and this whole debate on if it's too casual. And for me, I think it is casual, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Where we have all of these really realistic games that really don't reward you for your time or don't respect your time, it's nice to have an entry in the genre that can relatively hold its own weight and is pick up and play. The way that I look at Arena Breakout Infinite is like this. It's a gateway game to other entries in the genre. Perhaps a player joins and plays for a season or two, and they really master the difficulty, and because of that, it's no longer fun for them. The next logical thing they're probably going to do is look at alternatives. The alternative that they're probably going to go with is Escape from Tarkov, because Escape from Tarkov closely feels like Arena Breakout Infinite, so it's just a really natural gap and bridge to cross. So I call every Arena Breakout Infinite player a one day to be Escape from Tarkov player. And I think this concept is generally lost on both sides of the audience, both from the Arena Breakout Infinite people and the Escape from Tarkov people who relentlessly hounded this game. It's good for everybody that Arena Breakout Infinite exists. It's gonna eventually bring more people into the space, which is what we all need for diversity and for better games and raids in both titles. So again, I don't think it's a bad thing that Arena Breakout Infinite can be considered too casual, because ultimately it is. I mean, there's no doubt about it with the systems and the gameplay loop, which we'll talk about, but that's not a bad thing. And right away, what differentiates these two titles greatly from one another is the fact that Arena Breakout Infinite does not wipe, and it feels significantly easier to make money and stay competitive in Arena Breakout Infinite over Tarkov, where Tarkov constantly wipes. It feels like it's really hard to make money, so on and so forth. And if you're not playing Tarkov day one of the current wipe cycle and you join late, it puts you at a disadvantage against the people who have been playing since it launched. And that feeling really sucks. And it's the reason why I personally avoid wipes completely if I'm late to them, because there's no point for a variety of reasons. I'll have less time to progress. I'm going to be fighting people that are already geared to the teeth if it's a few months or weeks in, so on and so forth. But in ABI, there's a constant stream of events that give you money for participating. There's daily quests, weekly quests, the normal season missions they call them, which are basically your normal story quests, as well as daily login rewards, so on and so forth. So it makes it feel like, oh, I was away for XYZ amount of time. I want to play some Arena Breakout Infinite. You log on, you probably have a few things waiting for you to collect them. There's also a battle pass, so on and so forth. This kind of opens up the discussion of this game feels like it's a mobile game. And in terms of the UI in the main menu and how they handle monetization and how they handle daily logins and events, I could see how it could still feel like that. But the game generally does not feel like a mobile game. It is a pretty much rebuilt from the ground up for PC. That being said, it's just easier to make money. When you're loading into your next raid, you want to make sure you have the best and cleanest energy possible, so you're ready to deal with all of the situations about to come your way. A full 3-man squad? Ain't no big deal. An exit camper sitting at the exit? You got this. That's why I'm proud to announce that I have a partnership with Dubby. Dubby has a fantastic formula for their gaming energy supplements, chock full of the essential amino acids and B vitamins that's needed to keep you in the zone. And it doesn't have any of the artificial colors or dyes, fillers, and no sugar. With Dubby Energy, you are able to stay on the top of your game without the crash, and come out with a higher extraction rate and with more loot in your pocket. So head over to dubby.gg, pick out your favorite flavor, and use code EMBER69 at checkout to get 10% off. And yes, I did in fact name that EMBER69. That was not random. Over the last 2 weeks alone, I've found various red items in the normal mode and in the lockdown mode, which is a step above the normal difficulty, which made me 3 million in-game dollars. That is comparable to finding a LEDX, and honestly, I've only found one LEDX in Tarkov ever, or finding a keycard, which I've never found. Then again, I'm not going to their spawns all the time, and I play differently, but all of that means it's just a lot easier to stay current in Arena Breakout Infinite. You can make fun kits, you can play with the tools that you're given without having to worry about, man, I have no more money, I gotta go in with a broken Mosin now, because that's all I got. So if you're putting some amount of effort into playing Arena Breakout Infinite, you're gonna be finding things that are worth a lot of money on the market, and you're gonna be progressing your quests and doing your missions, and you're just always gonna have a stream of money. Add on top of that, maybe you kill a player. Usually guns that people bring into lockdown zone are like 200k. You're gonna be bringing in some steady cash flow. I personally like that. I got really tired of fighting the economy, and it really just eliminates gear fear. And for some people, gear fear is really important to the enjoyment of these games, and I get that. But gear fear is not completely eliminated. It's just significantly more pickup and play. Speaking of pickup and play, when I sit down to play some Arena Breakout Infinite, I don't have to go over to my second monitor, open up a wiki and an interactive map, and do some topography studying to find where things spawn, to find where my quests are, and to find exits on maps that I used to not be comfortable with. I can just play the game, because built into the game, there is a map and there is a compass active at all times. And recently, they just added a ping system to Arena Breakout Infinite, but that is open up to debate, as I'm predominantly a solo player, so I don't really care. I disabled it from my keybinds, but that in of itself really changes how the game can feel. But I don't really have anything to say there because I'm a lonely boy and I play by myself. Cue the world's smallest violin. And let's think about this critically for a second, because for some reason, the idea of adding a map into extraction shooters that you can just press M and look at always infuriates a lot of people. And again, it's predominantly the hardcore Tarkov people. But for all of us that play a lot of Tarkov or have played a lot of Tarkov, do we actually use the in-game map feature where you bring in a map and you can look at it? No. And if you say yes, you're lying. We're all at a point where we know the map so well, where we don't need any external tools except when we're doing specific things. So where's the harm in allowing there to be a more, user-friendly and accessible map that can help you direct things? It would make it so you're not having to jump out of the game environment in order to look things up, which breaks the immersion, because Tarkov's an amazingly sorry, I was being possessed by Nikita defenders. Sorry, I had to go and put some holy water on them. But Tarkov is an amazingly immersive game. So why do we allow the immersion to be broken by going to external wikis when this is something that could just be cooked into the game? And if it's done right, it would even make it more immersive. You know what I mean? There are just things that other developers are doing to tighten up their gameplay loops for their extraction shooters that allow you to focus on enjoying the game and getting better and progressing, rather than doing really boring admin that doesn't do anything besides kind of take the fun and take the emphasis of playing the game away from just playing the game. Hold on. Did you hear that? Wait a minute. I think there's somebody right outside. I gotta listen. Yep, they're definitely slow walking and they're definitely crouched, so it's probably a player. All right, I gotta be careful here. I gotta think about this. What do I do? That right there is kind of my thought process and what I do when it comes to listening to sound cues and audio in Arena Breakout Infinite, because in this game, the sound system is significantly simplified. And for the first patch and a half, the first 50 or so hours of me playing this game, I didn't really like it. I thought it made your kind of tactics and mobility options relatively limited, because once someone hears you, they can basically track you. But I got used to it. I learned how to play around it. I learned how to use it to my advantage, and I actually quite like it. And for those of us who have played Tarkov, we all have our love and hate relationships with the audio engine in that game. There have been wipes where it's fantastic, and there have been wipes where you're in a building and you hear someone step on some gravel and you think they're in the next floor above you, but they're actually in an alleyway getting ready to jiggle peek you. And don't forget the infamous time period where the crab walking meta reigns supreme, which is something that I never knew was actually a problem until I made a post about it, where I crab walked up some steps because I heard somebody above me, and then I eliminated them, and they were a pretty geared player. Man, people came after me for that. Like, calm down. I thought I was using my brain, but then again, I guess I wasn't. I just was abusing a glitch in the game. But, you know, I guess walking really slowly and making no noise can be seen as breaking the game. The audio engine was very wonky during that patch, so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Inside of Arena Breakout Infinite, there is no controlling your exact movement speed. You have a normal walk, you have a slow walk, and you have a crouch and a slow crouch, and you can lay prone. And of course you can run, which is really loud, like crazy, like maybe tone it down. You shouldn't hear somebody from half a click away when you're running. With all of that nuance kind of simplified, again, I'm gonna say it a lot, it just allows you to pick up and play the game, and you don't need to necessarily worry about how loud you're being. You do, but it's not as deep. It's not that deep, dude. Not that deep. And it shifts focus on the PvP engagements because, you know, you'll be able to tell when there's people around you, and engagements are less ratty and campy. Of course, this is an extraction shooter, so people are gonna rat. I have ratted when I had crazy valuable items on me, but you can't crab walk shotgun somebody in the face like I have. But this brings me to the one real problem that I have with Arena Breakout Infinite in terms of its actual in-raid gameplay. While I also have a lot of issues with how this game handles monetization, and as I record this section of the video, the Cyberpunk 2077 crossover event actually came out, and that further proved my problems with how they handle monetization and the reliance on gacha mechanics. Since ABI is built on this simplified sound design and limited mobility options, which yes, makes it more pick up and play and casual, allows this gameplay style that is heavily influenced by Call of Duty and other casual FPSs to kind of reign supreme, in particular when you're in Forbidden Zone and more advanced stages of the game later on. There is no inertia here, guys, and while Tarkov players who have been in Escape from Tarkov when there was no inertia and when inertia was added later on may rejoice at this fact, it kind of really sucks when you're playing a lot of this game. This allows things like jump shotting to happen, and that really irks me as a player. Personally, this is kind of a personal preference, but this will annoy some people, me in particular, but I kind of got used to it because I enjoy the game more than this bothers me. It kind of removes the slow-paced and bubbly, tactical, intense engagements that Escape from Tarkov really advertises and replaces it with a more Delta Force, casual, push or be pushed, jump around corners, jump when you get shot engagements. And for some, that is going to be fine because, again, it makes this a little bit more casual and less punishing if you make a mistake. For others, this is going to be a deal breaker. And don't even get me started on tree jiggle peeking. I don't know what it is about this strategy in particular, but every time it's used on me, I usually lose. This isn't an inertia problem. This is kind of just a skill issue on my part, but it always drives me crazy, and this isn't something you can really do as effectively in Tarkov. And if it matters, if it helps anybody, back in Season 0, I left this game for what I thought was indefinitely because I did not enjoy how the PvP felt. I didn't like the movement, I didn't like how Call of Duty and Delta Force it felt coming directly from Tarkov into beta testing this game. Late into Season 1, I really stuck with it, and I got into it pretty hard, and now I have hundreds of hours on this game in a short time frame. So if that helps anybody, you really got to stick it out and kind of look past this. But again, all of this goes back to the simplistic nature of this game that just allows you to log in, play a few raids, get a few grand, and hop back out. In Escape from Tarkov, most of the time we play solo, whether that be because we don't have any friends that play, or we just don't want to play with randoms that can probably just shoot you in the head right away. And the matchmaking system in Escape from Tarkov, and the lack thereof, it doesn't really work that well. But in Arena Breakout Infinite, there is a toggle that is on by default that you can turn off that auto matches you into a party of 4. And in this type of mode, when you're in a squad, you can see everybody's names, you can see them on the map, you can ping, it brings up some conversation there on whether or not that you should be able to see your allies at all times, if you should be able to ping. I mentioned this already, I'm predominantly solo, so this stuff doesn't really bother me. I turn that off every season because for some ungodly reason, every time the new season comes around, that checks itself back on and I end up playing 3 games with auto match on and I hate it and I have to quickly disable it. The one really important note here with squad play, other than the fact that it's really easy to match up with other people, is the fact that you can revive your teammates unless they get shot in the head, because obviously you can't revive somebody from that state. Instead of just dying right away, you go into a downed prone state and allows you to crawl and your teammates can revive you. Though most of the time when you get down, at least in my experience, I usually finish players off once they're down because I don't want them to get back up. I've had a few cases where I've been able to revive my friends and I've been picked up by my friends as well. It adds this layer of forgivability, once again, adds a layer of casualness, and it makes it so if you make a mistake, you're not instantly out of the game and sitting there waiting for your friends to die or leave. On top of that, there is a spectator cam that you are able to watch your friends and your squad play on after you die in raid, which just makes it feel a little bit less punishing and going back to staring at your stash for 30 minutes until they get out. There's been a lot of times where I'm just sitting in a Discord call with a screen share or with their screen share open and I'm just watching. This is something that we all do anyway. Going back to the whole map debacle, we always usually have a wiki open with a map. Most of the time when we're in EFT raids, our friends are streaming, we have those screen shares open, so why not just allow that in the game naturally? Again, accessibility can sometimes be really awesome. Being able to revive your friends, even if it's just a little mistake, is pretty awesome during squad play, even though I hardly do it. Extraction shooters pride themselves on having a relatively complex healing system. Escape from Tarkov's not that bad once you get used to it, and Gray Zone Warfare is seemingly able to promise a relatively robust and complex body and limb and organ-based healing system depending on where you get hit, providing different debuffs like coughing, sickness, so on and so forth, and that's developing as the game progresses. Arena Breakout Infinite's healing system is still not as casual as a normal FPS, but it really streamlines the whole process. Most of the time, medicine is auto hotkeyed to V, and it will usually target the most serious injuries first. So if you get blown up by a grenade, perhaps you have a few black limbs, but a lot of bleeds, it will prioritize stopping those bleeds first. So if you have a bandage in your pocket or rig, it will prompt you to hit V to do that for you. After that, it's probably going to ask you to hit V to do a med kit, and then eventually your broken limbs. But you're also able to control this by just opening your inventory, right-clicking, and hitting use. I personally like to fix bleeds and then broken limbs and then healing my entire body, whereas the game likes to stop bleeds, then heal the body, then do the surgery kits to recover the black limbs. And every single type of med kit and surgery kit have different stats tied to them. So again, it's still relatively complex and there's still an element of player decision on what type of meds you want to bring in. The lower cost ones tend to be faster but heal less, and the higher cost ones tend to be slower but heal more, and there's some in the middle. So once again, it's bridging this really needed gap between being too complex and being casual. It meets right in the middle there and really streamlines the healing process, as well as just getting you back into the fight quicker. No longer takes 20 minutes to finish healing up an entire blacked body. Injectors are also still present in Arena Breakout Infinite, and thankfully, there's not a lot of them, like in Tarkov, and you have to learn what each specifically does in specific situations. No more debating if you want to use a Propital or as Augustin or so on and so forth. You just got a regen, a strength, and some other ones in Arena Breakout Infinite. And again, I really don't see this as a negative at all. It's just really refreshing to not be forced to have a PhD in med packs and injectors to be able to get back into the fight in relatively quick fashion. Unsurprisingly, the ability to do a scav run or scaving is something that was popularized and implemented in Escape from Tarkov as a separate character with a randomized kit that you can go in that allows the player to earn some money and gear if they're really down bad. Arena Breakout Infinite also has a Scav mode called Covert Ops that functions pretty much the same way. On top of this, Arena Breakout Infinite offers another layer of protection for people if they are really, really struggling, and that is quick kits. Quick kits is really just a randomized set of gear that you take in with you on your main character that really just gives you some free loadouts. There's basic quick kits, advanced quick kits, and the yellow quick kits that all vary in tier and price point. The higher up in the quick kits you go, the more expensive they are and the better gear you get. However, if you're starting to wonder, man, this seems way too easy, are you ever really going to worry about your gear? Well, there is no insurance returns, and the price of things on the market tend to be really expensive. So while Arena Breakout Infinite offers a lot of ways for the player to stay with a good influx of money in their bank and gear in their stash, you can still really go down a bad path and you're having a lot of bad raids and you can just lose everything and you have to rely on quick hits. That is a possibility, albeit a lot smaller one when in comparison to Tarkov. Now, I want to close out the video by talking about what's the downside to all of this, because a lot of people on the internet like to make it seem that this is all atrocious and horrible and the game's gonna die because of it. I've been saying it throughout the video, but I really don't believe that to be the case, and I don't think any of this is necessarily a bad thing. I really believe that games are meant to be played for fun and enjoyment, and while we're in an era where single player games really aren't as predominant, so it's harder to find games that you can just pick up and play that are newer instead of going back into last gen stuff, extraction shooters provide a feeling that other games just can't replicate. They're intense, they're stressful. I still get jump scared when I get shot at. They act as both action, tactical, realism, FPSs, and also horror games most of the time. Most of the extraction shooters, I still include ABI in this, have a relatively steep learning curve that's fun to kind of overcome and learn. Most of the time. For me personally, the learning curve in Escape from Tarkov is no longer fun. The learning curve in Gray Zone is fun, but it's not really that steep. Arena Breakout Infinite is a good level of decently steep learning curve and still being fun. Like I've said at the beginning of this video, Arena Breakout Infinite is the gateway to everything else this genre has to offer. Everybody who plays Arena Breakout Infinite and really likes it and masters it, they're probably going to go to Gray Zone Warfare or Tarkov. Arena Breakout Infinite appeals to a different type of extraction shooter player. This type of player is one who wants realism without sacrificing fun that requires a huge time sink, which also then makes them neglect real-life responsibilities and duties. And sure, while Arena Breakout Infinite definitely has some level of this is a mobile game feel to it, especially in its UI, and of course the monetization is rather atrocious. Yeah, you can say that it's a little weird because they're doing crossovers and they have skins that seem like it's out of the tone of the game, but then again, Tarkov has ridiculous masks and other stupid cosmetics too. Arena Breakout Infinite is just a game that was developed to be picked up and played whenever time allows. It doesn't punish you for only being able to do one raid a day or a few raids a week. You're able to stay competitive no matter your availability. And you're able to learn this game at your own pace, and it just overall feels significantly more fair than Tarkov has ever felt in its entire development cycle. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging around. Thanks for liking the channel, even though I don't post as frequent as other creators. All of the support, even if we're a small channel that grows a little bit slowly than others, means a lot to me. And hopefully you're seeing progression in how my content's coming out. If you have any feedback at all, any advice, any tips, anything that you want to see, make sure you leave it down in the comments below. And I also want to hear from you. Do you think Arena Breakout Infinite is too casual? Do you wish there were no other extraction shooters other than Tarkov? I'm genuinely curious because the reaction to this game is really divisive. It's either this game's great, the best extraction shooter on the market, or it's a shameless EFT clone. I personally don't agree with the shameless EFT clone, but I do see the arguments on both sides. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe and turn that bell notification on so you get notified every time I release a video. Take care and be safe out there, druids.